Ready? Okay. I'd like to call to order this committee home meeting in the town of Saugeen Shores, and I extend a welcome to everyone in the council chambers this evening. Our first order of business is a declaration of pecuniary interest, and I'll remind every member of your responsibility, and you can do so now or when it arises on the agenda. Then this evening we have three deputations, and the first is Carolyn Hahn. She's here from the Ministry of Natural Resources, and she's going to talk to us about a great event that happened on our beach this summer. So welcome, Carolyn.
All right. Well, thank you for having me here tonight. So again, we're going to talk about piping plover recovery in Ontario and touch on the results from Port Elgin and Sauble Beach this year. So I'll talk a little bit about piping plovers and their ecology and the recovery process, as well as provide information on how the Port Elgin plovers did, as well as Sauble Beach, and kind of ongoing recovery efforts for the birds. So a few quick things about the piping plover. It's a small shore bird that's about the size of a robin, and adults can weigh anywhere between 40 and 60 grams, so they're a pretty small bird. They're easily identifiable by the black headband, the black collar band, and the light sand-colored back of the bird. It's an endangered species in Canada and the US, and it was once common along our shorelines. However, was extirpated until 2007 when we have a returning pair to Sauble Beach. So Sauble Beach is one of the most important sites in the Great Lake regions for the piping plover. And this year, Port Elgin it's the first year we've had a pair of piping plovers nest on Port Elgin. So it becomes one of the three nesting sites that we had in Ontario this year. So that includes Sauble Beach, Wasaga Beach, and Port Elgin. So the piping plover is present on the Lake Huron shoreline from about April to August. They're really here for a very short period of time. They will often lay their eggs on the beach, so anywhere from the mid-beach to the fore-dune area, or sometimes even in the dunes. And disturbances in the early season often force them to abandon the nest and re-nest, which leads to the prolonged stay of the bird on our beaches. So it's really important that we protect these birds early in the season so we can get them through the first time round. So this map shows the distribution of piping plovers in the Great Lakes region. So you can see Sauble Beach and Wasaga Beach on there. So this year we will be adding Port Elgin to that map. And then historically we've had a pair of piping plovers nest on Oliphant in 2008. So in 1986 there was only 17 breeding pairs in the Great Lakes, and they were all on the US shorelines. In 2009 we had approximately 70 pairs between the US and the Ontario Great Lakes. And then in 2010 we went down to 60 pairs. This year we're back up to 70 pairs, so the numbers aren't very stable. They're very variable from year to year, and that's due to a number of factors. So in Ontario this year we actually had 8 pairs of plover, which is up from recent years. That's 4 pairs on Sauble Beach, 1 pair on Port Elgin, and 3 pairs in Wasaga Beach. So piping plovers require healthy beaches such as Port Elgin and Sauble Beach to persist. And the kind of things that they require are a flat, sandy, or gravelly beach that's at least 0.4 kilometers in length, but usually longer. So there's quite a big difference between Sauble and Port Elgin. The beaches provide food for the birds, so they do feed on invertebrates. And they forage in the wet, sandy shorelines, as well in the drift line, in the small streams or seeps, in the interdunal wetlands and the dunes. The birds usually nest anywhere on the flat part of the beach or in the dune areas. This offers them some ability to camouflage when they're nesting. Adult plovers and chicks use all parts of the beach to forage. So it's important that natural material remains on the beach for the birds so they can forage, but also hide from predators and find shelter in extreme weather conditions. In locations without these kind of natural features, we often see death from predation, nest destruction, or starvation. So there's a number of threats that threaten the piping plover and their success. Many of these are natural, and a lot of them are human-related. So human-related factors often result. We have predation of adults, chicks, and eggs. So often with more humans coming to the beach, we see an increased number of predators. We see nest destruction such as trampling or crushing, nest abandonment, a low hatching or fledging rate, disruption of pair bonds, compromised nest selection, less efficient foraging behaviors for the birds, and inadequate parental care provided to the chicks. So a lot of these threats can be mitigated with a healthy beach environment, and that's a really important part of piping plover recovery. So this is just a picture that shows, this was a nest on Saugeen early in the season that got run over by an all-terrain vehicle. So it just shows the vulnerability of these nests. They're very hard to see in the sand and very easily stepped on or driven over by bikes or different sorts of vehicles on the beach. So there's not a lot of habitat for the piping plovers and there's definitely a lot of threats. However, recovery is definitely feasible. We've seen the population increase in the Great Lakes over the last 25 years, especially this year with having 8 pairs in Ontario. And there are many goals to the recovery project. So one, we'd like to achieve a self-sustaining viable population like in the past. We'd like to see the recolonization of historic sites. We'd like to maintain or increase our fledgling success rates. And we want to protect habitat via cooperative conservation measures. So through these goals, we can certainly achieve success with piping plovers. And it's definitely possible for humans and piping plovers to share the same beach environment. And Port Elgin was definitely a great example of that this year. So the types of approaches to recovery that we use are threat mitigation, the use of volunteer programs. So in Saugeen we have quite an extensive volunteer program, and it's something we're looking into for Port Elgin if we see the birds return in the future. The development of management plans for the beaches. The beaches is being maintained for both the birds and for humans visiting the beaches. Extensive education and outreach on the beach as well as throughout the community, and the collection of scientific data. So all these things aren't successful without the cooperation of the public, agencies, and landowners. While stewardship is our primary approach to protecting the birds, the species and its habitat is also protected under the Endangered Species Act, as well as a number of other federal and provincial legislation. However, to date, there have been no major enforcement issues, and this is likely due to the approach taken in this situation. So most individuals are supportive and cooperative with the birds once they understand more about them. So, on to Port Elgin. So this year was the very first year that we had piping plovers nest on Port Elgin Beach. Last year we did see the chicks from Saugeen pass through on Port Elgin and forage, and then move on to Gulble's Grove before they headed south. The nest on Port Elgin was discovered by a resident on the first weekend of June. And then we had our perimeter and exclosure that went up. So there's a picture of the perimeter. So this perimeter was actually, in fact, smaller than perimeters for piping plovers, which are usually 100 meters by 100 meters. Although we kind of have to work within the space that we have to work with. And that the merino wall did afford a lot of protection for the birds on the one side because there wasn't people really walking or kind of beaching in that area. So we had all 4 chicks successfully hatch on June 23rd. And the chicks really hit their milestones right on. At 2.5 weeks, we started to see short flights. At 4 weeks, we had the birds fully flying. So they're considered fledged if they can fly greater than 15 meters in a row. So we saw that on July 20th. The female and the female stayed around for about 3.5 weeks, which is a little longer than a female would generally stay, but because it was a first nest attempt and they made it through successfully, she had some time to stick around. And the last time we saw the male was July 26th, so he stayed around for 4.5 weeks, protecting the chicks and watching over them and teaching them how to forage down the beach. So in total, the chicks stayed on Port Elgin Beach for 5.5 weeks, and the last time we saw them here was July 31st, just in time for the long weekend to begin, which was awesome. So you can see by that bottom picture a typical day on a hot day on Port Elgin Beach. A lot of people there, but a lot also, we can attribute a lot of the success for these birds. A lot of people didn't really breach that perimeter, and they really respected the space that the birds required to be successful. So here's just a couple pictures, the timeline for the birds. So you can see that they grow quite fast from day 1. They're about the size of a cotton ball, right to the 4th week when they are the same size of an adult. So day 40 is when we first spotted the birds on Gobles Grove. They actually stayed on Gobles Grove we saw them on August 1st for about 1 to 2 weeks before moving out. And they're doing quite well there. And now they're gone completely. So, and this is just a series of images capturing the very first long flight of one of the chicks. So it was a very proud day for us, the Ministry of Natural Resources. We're very happy. So if you want to compare the results of Port Elgin to the results of Sauble Beach, it definitely was not a great year on Sauble Beach. We had 7 nest attempts in totals from 4 pairs. 3 of those nest attempts were second and third attempts. 23 eggs in total were laid and 6 chicks hatched in total. However, none of those chicks survived. So when we see birds coming into second and third nest attempts, that puts them on the beach longer. It leaves them more vulnerable to predators and an increased number of people using the beach. There's a little bit of a different dynamic between Sauble and Port Elgin. A lot of people feeding birds and attracting extra predators into the areas. A lot of people breaching those perimeters and just, disturbing the birds. So they didn't have a great successful year. However, weather was also a big issue this year. And we did lose quite a few eggs and one total nest to extreme heavy rain events. So piping plovers are present at Port Elgin and Sauble Beach because it provides the optimal beach environment needed to carry out their life processes. So the town of Saugeen Shores were quick to take action and get involved and cooperate and support the program by good land stewardship and maintaining and protecting the habitat for the plovers. The current approach is based on the best available information and advice from agencies such as MNR and Environment Canada. So some of the things that we recommend to help protect the habitat would be removing garbage cans from the beach, or at least moving them at a further distance from the nest. Discontinue raking practices, just so we can have some of that natural material on the beach and the bigger pieces of driftwood to offer protection and foraging opportunities for the birds. Restricting vehicle access to the beach, so big beach vehicles and machinery on the beach often pose a threat to the birds, especially to chicks who are unable to fly. Creating and managing education and outreach to beachgoers and visitors, as well as residents, just helps them learn about the species and help protect it. And protecting the important habitat features of the beach is really big too. So in closing, we'd like to thank Port Elgin for helping the piping plovers have a successful year. And we thank you on behalf of the Ministry of Natural Resources, Environment Canada, and the National Piping Plover Recovery Team, and other conservation partners in the U.S. And we also thank you for your commitment to protecting the species and its habitat.
Thank you, Carolyn. Questions or comments from the committee? Councillor Huber.
Thanks. Carolyn, you said in the presentation that one of the long-term plans was to recolonize historic sites. Was this an historic site?
Port Elgin was not known to have piping plovers on it, so it's very interesting that they chose this site. Again, we don't control where they nest, so it has, I guess, it's a favorable location. However, we don't actually know that the plovers will return in upcoming years, so it's hard to know if that will continue year after year at this point.
Is there an historic site?
Historical sites would be Sauble Beach and Wasaga Beach.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of questions, if I could. First one was when the nests were lost early on, has there ever been any attempts made to try and incubate these eggs, the early nests?
So we don't have a program like that right now in Ontario. We just don't have the capacity. It's kind of a multi-million-dollar investment. So that is actually done on the U.S. side of the Great Lakes. So it may be something we go into in the future, but at this point we don't do it.
If I could, just for the second one, just curiosity, when they go south, how far do they go?
So often they'll go to the Florida area, Gulf of Mexico, and the Caribbean, so anywhere in that kind of area. Yeah.
This was quite an incident, and I know it brought a lot of interest from all kinds of groups from all across, from as far away. I had calls from as far away as Ohio that people had come here to see these birds, and it was quite interesting. But you talk about some of the things. I guess my question would be, what are some of the things we should maybe prepare for next spring in anticipation that they may be back?
I think one of the big things for next year, if the birds come back, is to initiate a volunteer program in Port Elgin. Being that there was 2 sites this year and a lot of problems at Sauble Beach, I did spend a lot of more time over there than I would have liked. I would have liked to spend a lot more time at Port Elgin because there was such an interest in the birds, and we had hundreds of people coming every day that wanted to ask questions about the birds, learn about the birds, view the birds through the scopes, and it was just really refreshing to see that kind of excitement with not only visitors to the beach but local residents as well. So having that volunteer program and having some kind of outreach material to hand to people really helps with that, and I just think it's a really excellent opportunity for the visitors and local residents to learn.
I guess my next question to that is, does the ministry have resources available to assist us with this?
I think our partnership specialist, Craig Todd, has been talking with Jessica Linthorne about it, so there's definitely something in the works right now. And you might...
Well, thanks very much for the information and for everything you did all summer.
Right.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Our next deputation is Sally Hunt and Randy Seabach, and they're here to tell us about 2014 Pumpkin Fest. So welcome, Sally.
Good evening, everybody. We actually have Corby Leach with us too, so there's the 3 of us up here to give our little deputation. So October 4th and 5th is just a little more than a month away, and Pumpkin Fest staff and committee are gearing up for the fantastic community event for the 28th time. We're here tonight to thank you for your continued support and to update you on Pumpkin Fest 2014. So I'd like to start by introducing our team. So for those of you who may not know me, I'm Sally Hunt. I've returned to the position of coordinator for Pumpkin Fest after taking a less active volunteer role for the previous 2 years. I started with the organization back in 2006, so this will be my 8th year as part of the team. Mandy Seabach, to my right, joined our organization in January, and she's already helped to successfully plan and execute our annual job fair. She was the chamber manager's right-hand woman organizing our annual general meeting in the spring, and she was the lead contact for our Canada Day fireworks celebration in Southampton. This weekend, she'll be taking the lead for the upcoming Labor Day fireworks celebrations, and she's looking for volunteers. She's been working closely with me to learn all of the ropes involved in coordinating Pumpkin Fest and will be taking on the responsibilities of coordinator for the 15 festival. We have great confidence in Mandy, and I trust that I am leading the festival in very capable hands with Mandy leading the fantastic team of committee volunteers that the festival has always enjoyed. To my left, we have Corby Leach. She joined our team last year, and she's been a terrific asset coordinating the nonprofit groups wishing to fundraise at the festival and liaisoning with all of the vendors. We also have some volunteer board of directors with us this evening. They're both our car show lead guys. So we have Earl Anderson as our new car show director, and we have Ron Knight as the director of the Corvette Corral. So thanks for coming out, guys. So we'd like to take the time tonight to present this delegation, and we're pleased to announce some exciting new activities and attractions. We'll also speak a little bit about some of our tried, tested, and true events. So of our new attractions at Pumpkin Fest, they include Pedal's Culinary Pavilion, which will be located in the front parking lot of the Curling Club, so front and center of the event. This pavilion will allow festival visitors to taste the plentiful bounty that our region has to offer during the harvest season. So local producers, processors, and retailers will be offering displays and vending booths featuring items such as elk meat. We've got Italian specialty gelato coming made from local fruit, and homemade pies, just to name just a few of what will be in that tent. Mowbray's Canadian Tire have switched from bringing the Siscar attraction that's been around for about the last 4 years, and they switched over to an interactive hockey attraction this year, and that's presented by Top Shot Hockey. It's the same company that provides all of the interactive games to the Hockey Hall of Fame. So they're going to bring 3 different games with them. There's an electronic hockey net, an inflatable mini hockey rink for the little ones, and the Slapshot speed recording. So the electronic hockey net is for basically accuracy and target shooting, and then obviously the hardness of your slap shot on the other game. Also back after quite some time, we have our quilt raffle back, and we're very pleased about that. And that's thanks to the Colonial Motel and Antiques and the Port Elgin Rotary Club, who will actually be conducting the raffle. The quilt is entitled the Pumpkin Fest Log Cabin, and it was hand quilted by Bill and Sybil, and it's currently on display in the Sunrise Cafe in the motel. So with the quilt raffle, we're also bringing back the master carvers. We discontinued them last year, but there was enough response that made our committee feel that the master carvers definitely have to be at the event. So they'll be carving 2 different giant pumpkins, one each day, and in the past they've done everything from like a haunted house to a giant fish to a spider. We've had all sorts of neat stuff. So then, in terms of our regular attractions and our tried and true, we'll of course have the Bruce Power International Way Off tent back. Here it's been a bit of a difficult year for the growers with the cooler temperatures and the amount of rain, but there are rumors out there that there's still some monsters lurking and they're waiting for their time at the scales in Port Elgin. I personally have seen some photos of some really gorgeous dark green squash that look pretty big to me in the photos, and I was telling Tom before we started our session tonight that the world record tomato just got smashed this weekend. For 28 years it stood at 7.75 pounds, and a guy in Minnesota weighed 8.4 pound tomato on the weekend down in Minnesota. So let's hope we get a bigger tomato. The car show's coming back. The registrations are coming in fast and furious. We're still one of Ontario's largest 2-day outdoor car shows, and with the perimeter of the show, you'll also find the motorcycle show and sign, and the newest car show feature, the Corvette Corral. We've already got two 2014 Corvettes signed up for that, and that attraction just seems to be getting bigger and bigger. This will be its third year for it. We also have our new chairman this year. Earl Anderson generously took on the role. He joined the Pumpkin Fest board in February, and by April he had already moved up into the role of chairman since our previous chairman moved out of province and was no longer available to help us with that. So thanks again to Earl. We're going to change up the baking contest a little this year by moving it into the Petals Culinary Pavilion. We just think that's a better fit to have the food with the food. So it'll come out of the Way Off tent. And instead of doing the live auction like we've done in the past, we are planning on switching to a bake sale. I just need some finalization from Public Health as to what the rules regarding a bake sale may be. This will free up more room for more bleacher seating in the Way Off tent, which we've always been asked, there's not enough places to sit in the tent, and as I say, logically moves the baking in with the culinary aspect of the festival. So unfortunately, we didn't get any government funding besides for marketing, and we got lots of marketing money, so we're going to have quite a presence down in the GTA, both digital campaign as well as we got some OTMPC funding to advertise in the GTA as well. So there will be in the, I think it's the September 18th edition of the Globe and Mail, there'll be editorial on Port Elgin Pumpkin Fest. I did that interview last week, and then as well as I've purchased some advertising both online with the Globe and Mail and in the upcoming papers leading up to the event. But we didn't get any helping for our entertainment purchases, which was the big grant that I was hoping to get. So we're not going to have any big headliners like we had the Trews last year, but we have confidence in our local talent, and we think within the region there's no problems going to be providing quality entertainment for that beloved attraction at the Harvest Star Search stage. We're also throwing around the idea of the Harvest Star Search competition opening up to more than just vocal. Last year we added dance. This year we think it's going to sort of be like a no-holds-bar talent competition. So anything you want to try, sort of more like an American's Got Talent type of thing. So hopefully that'll generate some more youth interest in that as well. We're going to have elephant spots back in the OPG tent, in the environment tent, and they'll be bringing their human gyroscope back, which offers these great experiences of weightlessness, and they bring all other sorts of fantastic interactive educational activities to that tent. This will be the 5th year for Pumpkin Crawl, and it's going to kick off on Friday night, and we'll have the wristbands and so forth in the shuttle buses. The wristbands are required to ride the shuttle buses. It's a $5 fee to purchase a wristband, and then the shuttle buses run a circuitous route throughout Saugeen Shores, both Port Elgin and Southampton, on a continuous basis all Friday evening to provide safe transportation. We will be doing a formal ask in the official program that the Shoreline Beacon produces, asking Saugeen Shores residents to help us alleviating the traffic congestion that we experience Pumpkin Fest weekend. We'll be asking them not to leave their vehicles in the downtown core overnight on the main street, as well in the advertised parking lots that we use for both the car show vendors and for the Corvette Corral. So we will be putting that in the newspaper in the actual program, and as well as we'll be tweeting out and Facebooking out that's one way that the community can help us. We know that it does pose some frustrations with the traffic congestion that the weekend does produce. So I'm going to draw your attention to your packages now. In them you will find the package of pumpkin seeds to get ready to practice for your celebrity seed spitting contest. We will provide complimentary wristbands and special parking passes for the event if you're available to attend. Just call Corby at our office. She's looking after taking all the names of who's coming, and she'll gladly get all of that stuff to you. And again, we'll also be offering our family weekend pass to our residents again this year for the $25. That's a $5 savings. That gives you 2 adult and 2 children's passes, but they are available only pre-advance of the event, and we will stop selling the family passes on September 26th. So, in close, the municipality of Saugeen Shores is listed as our giant sponsor for all of the in-kind support that you guys put together for us. Each of the municipal departments plays a very important role in our success, and we really couldn't do it without the help of the entire community and council and the municipality. We really appreciate the willingness of the staff to assist us with our requests. Sometimes they come on very short notice. So thanks for your time this evening, and we'll be very happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Sally. Questions? None whatsoever. Well,
That's easy.
You didn't hear your presentation then.
Everyone's seen the lure this year too?
Yes.
So that's in your packages, and if anybody in the audience would like a lure, I'll give them that too. So thanks very
Well,
much.
thanks very much. We look forward to Pumpkin Fest.
All right.
Thanks, Sally. Our next deputation is Allie Boltman, and she's the Executive Director of the Grey Bruce Community Foundation, and she's here to bring us an update on the foundation.
Hopefully most of you can see that from there, unless there's a better place for it to go.
You might want to sit it right here so the camera can get it. Thanks, Al.
Thank you for having me this evening. Sorry for the delay. My name is Allie Boltman. I'm the new Executive Director for the Community Foundation Grey Bruce. And with me this evening is Victoria Serta, who is the Chair of the Saugeen Shores Community Fund. Some of you may be very familiar with Victoria as a former member of your council. I should warn you right up front that I have a very niggly cough, and I'm going to do my very best to not bless you with that this evening, but in the event that it comes out, I do apologize profusely. For those of you who may not be as familiar with what the foundation does, I'll give you the very brief Coles Notes version of it. Our foundation has 3 key focuses. We generate long-term resources by accepting donations, which are created into endowment funds. And the word endowed is key because it means in perpetuity. Those donations, when they come in, are invested, and all of the other donations with them are pooled together. The original capital donation is never ever touched again. It grows and grows, and only the earned revenue on that initial donation is what's used for our second key purpose, which is to grant back to charities and nonprofits throughout all of Grey Bruce. It's a very large region, and we work very closely with these groups to help them become more sustainable, to help establish what their needs are, to have them work together so that we can try to identify areas where there may be duplications of efforts, and with so many community groups needing help and only so many people to go around to fulfill those positions, those volunteer positions, that's a really key part of what we're trying to be aware of. We're bringing organizations together to stimulate new ideas and to strengthen community philanthropy. To give you an idea of the kind of partnerships that we can initiate and the kind of ripple effect that our work that we do can have in the community, the best example I often give is the West for Youth story. Some of you may be familiar with Wes Cameron, who was the son of Yolanda and Jamie, and at a very young age, Wes took his own life. It was discovered in the aftermath that Wes had really been using his phone as his only means of communication to the world and was suffering in silence. His parents wanted to take all of that grief and anguish and sadness and turn it into action right away to ensure that no other family would ever go through what they have gone through and what they continue to go through. They looked into starting their own charity and sitting in on a workshop to find out what the steps were. It became exceedingly obvious that was going to be a process that was going to take years to do, with an awful lot of red tape and a lot of stress along the way, and keeping them from their goal of actually getting their feet wet and getting their hands dirty and getting the work done now. And at that same workshop, someone said, I think you should come and talk to the Community Foundation. What we were able to do was to hook them up with the Canadian Mental Health Association, the local branch, who had an existing endowed fund with us. We paired the team together so that West for Youth could get started right away collecting donations and putting those donations to good work by pairing them with an existing charity. We can now accept those donations on their behalf. We have 2 funds set up for West for Youth. We have a flow-through that allows them to get the funds they need for immediate projects like the new building that they just purchased. West for Youth is now helping over 110 kids in under a year and a half in Grey Bruce. And then we have their endowed fund, which will grow in perpetuity. I'm a very new executive director with the foundation, although I do have a 10-year history with the group. It's always been on the other side of the table. I've worked with various organizations, including the Southampton Arts Society, worked as their employee as their board went through the process of creating an endowed fund. I've also worked with the Grey County Historical Society as a volunteer on their board while they went through the same process. And of course, I've worked for numerous organizations, largely as a volunteer, to apply for funding from the foundation. So I have really seen it from all sides and feel that it's a very good fit for me and that I can speak well for what we do. It's been an extremely, extremely big year for us at the foundation. Not only are we celebrating our 20th anniversary this year serving Grey Bruce, but in the last year we were left a $6.5 million bequest from Eva Leffler. This has effectively taken our endowment base and doubled it. While we were granting out last year at this time about $190,000, this year we anticipate that by the end of the year we will be up closer to $550,000 given out in grants, and that by the end of the year we also may be closer to $15 million than the $13.5 million that we started with as soon as that the bequest came in. So it's a very exciting time. It's allowing us to spread our wings a little bit and take some risks in terms of reaching out to the community and trying new things. This year we increased our grant opportunities to 2 intakes. It used to just be a spring intake, April 30th. Now it's April 30th and September 30th. And we opened up capital funding. Having been on the other side of the funding table for so many years, I can tell you that finding capital funding is about as easy as locating a unicorn or a 4-leaf clover. So it was very exciting for us to be able to offer that kind of funding and to work with all of these community groups. We received 26 letters of intent. We had planned to spend $100,000 on capital funding. In the end, we were able to push through 15 projects to completion by finding the projects that we felt were the strongest and had the most merit, and projects that represented groups from all throughout Grey and Bruce County. And by working with the Eva Leffler Donor Advised Fund, we ended up spending $130,000 instead of the $100,000 that we had planned to spend. So it's been quite a year. The other part of this big year for us is that it is the launch of our Smart and Caring Education Initiative, and you may see that on the board in front of you there. We are aiming to add nearly $1 million to an existing education fund so that we can better provide for students in Grey Bruce. Now, this may look like an awful lot of money when you look at this chart, and it is when you see a goal of $1.75 million. But if you remember our initial intent and how we function, we are only able to offer the earned revenue for all of that capital, all those capital donations that are invested. So it has to be fairly high to have the kind of impact that we are trying to have for our students in Grey Bruce. And our students are extremely unique. Because we are in a largely rural area, our youth have issues that kids living in larger city centers don't have. When our kids go into an apprenticeship stream, for example, like to be an electrician or to be a plumber, they may be working one day in Walkerton and the next day in Tobermory. They need vehicles. They don't have the transit systems that they have in the larger city centers. They don't have access to funding or to greater grant opportunities that they may have in larger city centers. They may not even have access to the jobs that they need, those part-time jobs, because less of them exist where we live. So they have unique needs. The answer to the call of this Smart and Caring Education Initiative has come about through the Governor-General of Canada making a call to arms to all community foundations straight across the country to identify a project that is important in their community, and this is what we have done, is we have created this Smart and Caring Education Initiative. What I want to emphasize is that in our community right now, only 7% of our youth are going to university. And we have a greater number of 25% that are going to college and about 34% that are going into workplace and apprenticeship programs. So out of that number, that 25% for college and that 34% that are going into apprenticeships, did you know that only 1% of all of the available funding for youth is actually applicable? 1%. So in other words, everything is geared to the university stream, and that's great for the kids that are going to university, except that we've all identified that we have a serious need for tradespeople in our community. The average age of a tradesperson in Grey Bruce is 55 years old. That's a little terrifying if you think about it on a broad scale and what that might mean in 10 years. So with the Smart and Caring Education Initiative, there are two parts to it. The first, of course, is that we are trying to raise this money. The second part of it is that we are building a website where all of the youth can very accessibly access all of the available grants, bursaries, and awards that exist for youth in Grey Bruce in one easy step, in one place, in an accessible fashion. Right now, the Blue Water District School Board, each school within the board has some small scattered awards listed on the individual schools' websites. But if you were to actually call the Blue Water Board and try to get access to every single award, bursary, grant that's available to students in the Blue Water District, you would have a very hard time accessing that information. And in fact, the Blue Water Board has had so many awards and bursaries not applied for 10 years running that they've become redundant, and that's because the students didn't know where it was. When students go to school and they're getting ready to go to college, university to take apprenticeship programs, they on average get one interview or one opportunity with a guidance counselor per semester. And in that one opportunity that they have, they are somehow supposed to figure out what they want to do with their life, then go through the process of applying to the appropriate schools, and then go through the process of figuring out how they're going to get the grants, the bursaries, the funding that they need to do what they want to do. And it's an impossible task. So we're trying to make their lives easier with this Smart and Caring Education Initiative. So, what I'm here tonight to ask for is for you to endorse this project. We have gone to every municipality and territory in Grey Bruce. By the end of October, I believe, we'll have gone to everyone to ask for this endorsement statement to be passed. So far, everyone we have asked has been kind enough to support it. We are not asking you for money, but we think that this is an important step to help keep you apprised of what we are doing in our community, why it matters, and we hope that there may in fact be a ripple effect, that by coming here tonight and by speaking to people on council and by speaking to people in the room, that someone might go home and say to their partner, to their friend, to the mechanic around the corner, did you know that the Community Foundation is doing this, that they're looking to grow apprenticeships, they're looking to grow scholarships for tradespeople, and hopefully people will come to us and inquire about this so that we can get their money working for them in a way that's going to benefit the youth in our community and get a tax receipt in the process and do something good and charitable and feel good about their philanthropic choices. The endorsement statement that I've brought to you tonight is that the town of Saugeen Shores endorses the Smart and Caring Community Fund for Education for students in Grey and Bruce counties as a sesquicentennial project provided through the Community Foundation, Grey Bruce.
Thank you very much, Ally. And I think maybe we'll deal with this statement first, and I think it would be appropriate that we get a mover and a second, moved by Councillor Huber and seconded by the Deputy Mayor, that we endorse this statement. Okay, then I guess I'll call that, we'll say all in favor. All in favor? Very good. Now, has anybody any questions or comments? Councillor Frost for Ally.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks so much, Ally. Just one quick question. Because we're dealing with this particular part of the organization, what kind of return do you see from $1 million capital? I know it varies because markets and what, but what do you normally get out of this?
Well, what we've done with the education initiative is we've taken all of the funds that are under that umbrella and we've put them in dividends. Dividends normally, if you go to an investment person, they will tell you to expect somewhere between 3 and 5% because dividends are invested in very stable stocks, blue chip stocks, stable investments. I have to be honest with you to tell you that right now our actual average in dividends is outperforming our other investments, and it's sitting, I can't believe these words are coming out of my mouth, but it's almost 15%. Which is pretty amazing. So it's been quite a year, and we're hoping that it will continue this way. But you have to remember, and I know this sounds like a big word, and I don't want to tire everyone down with money jargon, so to speak, but that this is unrealized income. So while it's sitting there right now at 14.9, all it takes is a major shift in politics or a bad day at the market and things come flying down. So we're very cautious, and we pick a figure every year by working with our finance and investment team, who are some of the best minds in Grey Bruce, and a former CRA auditor who is our part-time accountant, to help develop a figure every year that we feel well reflects what we are able to provide and still roll money back into that initial investment so that it can keep buying up those stocks and those bonds when the market is strong.
Thank you. Councilor Taylor.
Thank you, Ali. Great presentation.
Thanks, Dan.
How do you intend to have linkages with the schools to get the message out about the resource that's called a website? The reason why I ask is that for 20 years I worked in university administration, and not only, when you describe that there's awards at the high school level that aren't going out to people at the university level as well, like, people don't apply for them. So how do you intend to try and get the message out via the schools?
Well, the first step is getting the website built, so we're in the wireframe structure now. Dave Barrett, who works for OYAP, the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program, and any of you who have met Dave would remember him instantly because he's a very gregarious, smart, hardworking guy. He has been having one of his assistants throughout the summer actually gather all of that information from the Blue Water Board because they can access it in a way that we couldn't. Once we get it all together, we're going to start making presentations to schools. We're going to start making presentations to business groups in the community. I'm going to meet with a mechanics group in September. I'm going to meet with a chiropractors group. So we're going to be hitting students and businesses and individuals simultaneously. But I think the real answer in terms of how do we get the word out to youth is it's really all going to be about social media and phones and word of mouth and kids that really like to talk.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor.
Thanks for the presentation. That was very interesting. I know from my involvement with another foundation that there are a number of unused money sitting with schools right across Grey Bruce. Principals, vice principals, and staff have a difficult time dealing with the families who have put those into their hands.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there's, I know it's thousands and thousands of dollars. It's a great deal of money. But I suspect there's a way through the board and through some efforts on the part of your board to access that and get it where it's useful. Because, as you say, some of those are not being granted each year. They're simply sitting there, and there's a substantial amount of money. So I applaud you for going after that, and I think that it's well worthwhile.
Well, thank you. I think we have to prove ourselves first and get this up and running and have it be useful and user-friendly and make an impact, and then hopefully they'll see the validity in that too, because ultimately, no matter how distant you can be from the needs of a student, I think you have to be an extremely hard-hearted person to not understand or see the need that our kids have to achieve these goals. I mean, we have to get these kids working with stable jobs so that they'll stay in our communities or that they'll consider coming back to our communities, or if nothing else, think fondly on our communities for helping them along as they were growing so that they might want to contribute back at some point in their lives.
Nothing else, and thanks very much for your presentation, and you can, if you would like, you can take that with you.
I will, thank you.
Okay.
Just before I leave, I also just want to congratulate you for having your own community fund. You're one of 4 that we have in all of Grey Bruce, and I think it's one of the highest performing funds that we have, and thanks to the work of Victoria and her team, it's a very dynamic community fund, so I applaud you for being forward-thinking and starting that as well.
Well, thanks very much. One of the founders is in there. Some of the founders were in the room tonight, so I thank those people that had that idea.
That's
Anyways, thanks very much, Valley.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the general government staff report, and it has to do with something we heard about as our tree sculpture program, and our clerk, Linda White's going to present the report.
Thank you. The The Municipal Heritage Committee would like to establish a tree sculpture program. The purpose of the program is to sustain the life of the trees that have reached the end of their life in a way that allows the trees to continue adding character to our community. The trees that are located on municipal property require a policy from the town to ensure that the location of this sculpture is approved by the municipality and work that is completed on municipal property is in accordance with the town's standards. In the future, an inventory of the sculptures will allow the town to market the sculptures as a tourist attraction. The Municipal Heritage Committee proposes that the program have a historical theme, whereby recommending that the sculpture fit into one of the following three themes. One is the marine nautical theme, two is historical people from Saugeen shores, and the third is animals or birds of local significance. A policy has been drafted in collaboration with the Municipal Heritage Committee and town staff. It is drafted to allow staff to provide the preliminary approval to ensure the municipality has no future need for the property. The next step is the Municipal Heritage Committee would review the application. Reviewing the location and the theme of the sculpture would make a recommendation to Town Council. The final approval would be from the Town Council. With respect to the financial impact, the cost of the sculpture will be paid by the abutting landowner or the sponsor. The town will be responsible for the ongoing maintenance if the sculpture is located on the municipal property.
Thank you. Then the recommendation is that council approves the tree sculpture policy program policy. Sorry, questions? Vice Deputy Caldwell.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. It's interesting. If you've ever had a chance to drive, I believe it's Interstate 15 across through Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi across through there. A couple of the state rest areas have tree sculptures, and you can spend hours looking at them. They're very, very impressive, and they're huge. They're like 20 feet high, and there's storks, and there's herons, and there's birds on limbs, and someone's done a ton of work. So I support it. I'm not too terribly willing to put municipal money into it, but I think if someone wants to do it, and I'd sooner see a plant a live tree than sculpture a dead one. However, I think there's maybe a use for some of those ash stumps we're going to be looking at. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Doug. Councilor Frost. Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Doug. I believe this is the same thing, and maybe somebody else can say this is what we see in Orangeville. If you go down Broadway, it's the same idea. I think it'll look kind of unique, and I think this town's got some pretty talented people when it comes to art stuff. So I think there'd be some interesting sculptures there. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Deputy Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Doug, I'd rather see people buy fruit than sculpt trees, but nothing we can do anyway. I really like this program. I think it's a great idea, and I think it's great that we're going to give this opportunity to people to do this on public land. I think providing this opportunity on municipal lands where a lot of the most publicly accessible trees are just makes a lot of sense. But I'm okay with the policy, and I'm going to support the policy. But the one thing that bugs me a little bit is the level of restriction in the policy. What makes these things so great in Orangeville and elsewhere is the artistic nature of them and the creativity, and nothing, as you know, stymies artistic endeavor more than bureaucratic process and regulation. And so the stipulation that it has to be marine, nautical, historical people, or animals or birds. I certainly understand why those criteria are in there, and they should stay. And all I would say is I hope that Windtown staff and the Heritage Committee gets applications under the program, that they interpret that list of themes as broadly as possible, and that in the end, when people want to do this, that we apply as little restriction as possible, apart from the obvious taste-related issues that might arise. But I think that, I really think that we should let people do we should let people express themselves this way, and I think that if we do that, that the program will be even more successful, and it will make it even more interesting to folks to drive around our municipality and take a look at them. But I like the program, and certainly intending to support the policy. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Huber.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For the Deputy Mayor, the other communities that we researched as we talked about the policy, and actually this idea came from a resident, so this is sort of bubbled up as a tree was being addressed abutting his property, or their property. But the other communities that we investigated or researched, they all had themes initially to get things off the ground, to provide opportunities for people to kind of get into the idea. Plus, there's also the sense that because it is on public land, initially anyway, it provided opportunity, but also gave an opportunity to add into some branding, and I know you love that word, some branding in a community to pick up on a theme. I also just want to say the policy that is before us seems to suggest always that this stump is left and it's carved right there, and certainly there's a sense that would be exciting to have art happen right there on the street, and of course with the proper security around it as it's occurring. But there is a possibility that a tree stump would be literally removed, carved somewhere else, and then come back. So there's a couple of different ways that this can happen, and there's a very real possibility that the first opportunity, should we follow through on this, might be this fall. So and it definitely is exactly what the Deputy Mayor said. It's to encourage some creativity in the community, put more art on the street, so to speak. The themes are really just because we were looking at other communities who had the experience first, and to just encourage some directions. And certainly, anybody who has a creative idea that's possible, I'm sure it would be addressed. Thank you.
Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just explain to me how, and I support this, the abutting property owner is going to pay. How is that going to be fingered out?
Okay, so the one part of it is the $250, and that's for the kind of the ongoing maintenance of it. So if they apply for it and they're successful in getting their sculpture approved, we retain the $250. If not, we have no need for that care and maintenance, so that gets returned to them. The second component of it is for the artist that's doing the actual carving, and that to provide us with a cost estimate. The town, in conjunction with the budding landowner, will review that, and the budding landowner will sign an agreement that they're actually paying for the carving to be completed. And I would expect the money would be accepted up front.
Thank you.
Nothing further then. All in favor of the recommendation? That's carried. The next item on the agenda is the General Government Staff Report, and it has to do with the Port Elgin Business Improvement Area. And again, our clerk will present.
Thank you. The Port Elgin Business Improvement Area was established in 1983, and in 2012, a bylaw was passed to expand the boundaries and increase the minimum and maximum fees. The Port Elgin BIA is a local board of the municipality and is in need of direction from council regarding the governance of the board. The attached governance bylaw has been drafted using consistent terms as being recommended for the establishing the Southampton BIA. The attached draft bylaw defines some of the following: the terms of office, filling of vacancies, the quorum, roles and functions of the board and its executive, defines the membership, provides the notice provision for meetings, outlines the conflict of interest and records management requirements, sets out the signing authority, remuneration, finance and budget allocation or expectations, and highlights the requirement for a purchasing policy. The bylaw redefines the composition of the Board of Management to be a minimum of 5 members, including 1 council member, with a maximum of 7 members. And this is a change from the current bylaw that requires 6 members to be appointed to the board. 2 members of the Port Elgin BIA assisted in drafting and extensively reviewing the draft bylaw with municipal staff. The draft bylaw was then circulated to BIA members via email, and no comments were received to the bylaw. Since the review by the BIA members, staff has made the following changes to the draft bylaw in addition to some minor housekeeping issues. The bylaw has been changed to clarify that the bylaw is a governance bylaw and not an establishing bylaw. The secretary of the board is not required to be a member of the BIA, which is consistent with the current bylaw in effect. Notice of the executive board meetings must be given to the board members in accordance with the town's procedural bylaw, which is a minimum of 48 hours prior to a meeting, instead of the 10 days as proposed in the original draft. It should be noted that the notice period for the annual general meetings and the membership meetings remain unchanged and requires a 10-day notice period. It's recommended that the attached draft bylaw is being recommended for council's consideration.
Thank you, Linda. Then the recommendation is that council passes a governance bylaw for the Port Elgin Business Improvement Area. Any questions or comments? Deputy Mayor Charbonneau.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Linda, as a municipal board, and clarify this for me, if as a municipal board, is the BIA in Port Elgin and the pending potential Southampton BIA subject to all the provisions of the Municipal Act in terms of meetings, et cetera, et cetera?
Yes, they are.
And so, I mean, I certainly support this, and I congratulate you and the BIA executive for going through this and cleaning up what was a bylaw that needed cleaning up. I just wonder, we have all this in place. How does the municipality ensure compliance on an ongoing basis with ensure that the board itself is in both Port Elgin and Southampton are complying with this bylaw and with the Municipal Act itself?
So basically, I mean, the education to the board members, the executive members, will be the starting point, what the expectations are. The ongoing compliance will be amongst the executive, the members, to bring any issues to light. And of course, the municipal staff are there as a resource at the municipal office if anything should need clarification.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, just a quick follow-up. Will the municipal staff be touching base with the BIA executives on an ongoing basis or at some particular point during the year, reviewing minutes or agendas or going through some of this business? I just feel like what's happened in the past, and the reason why I'm getting at this is that there's been some slippage. You know, we just haven't really been in touch enough, maybe, or it hasn't really been happening the way that maybe it ought to have been happening over time. And I don't think that that's anybody's fault in particular. I just think that maybe it would be helpful if we were in more frequent contact, or if we had some process by which we touched base on these issues and monitor, at least for a period, these activities, so that everybody was aware and we made sure they were aware of what was necessary. Is that what's intended or what you have planned?
Certainly the board minutes, their annual budgets will be part of, so their minutes of their executive, the minutes of the membership meetings are to come to the council, and certainly the council is to review them. So you'll be updated that way. Certainly we can improve upon the town staff being there to answer questions for the board in the future.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Marcel, Councilor Legault.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks, Linda, for all the work that you put into this. So, just to follow up a bit on Luke's comments, will the staff be available to train the executive of the BIA, or will there be a session on the Municipal Act and stuff like that?
Yes, there will be.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further? If not, then all in favor of the recommendation. That's carried. The next item on the agenda is communications and petitions for committee of the whole information. There's 6 items there, and they're listed for you, and they're available to council if they need them. The next that we have is a report of a department head, and we have an Ontario Municipal Board decision on our development charges bylaw finally, and I think perhaps the CIO wants to speak to it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're pleased to advise formally that the town's DC bylaw was entirely upheld by the Ontario Municipal Board, and the decision is attached to the brief communication that was provided to you. From our perspective, it's business as usual for the next number of years. Regrettably, there was a fairly substantial financial impact to the community to have that occur, but nonetheless, it has now been put in place, and from our point of view, we will move forward with the implementation of the bylaw for the next 4 successive years.
Any questions? Nothing? Doug, you want to comment?
I'm sorry. We had asked a question regarding costs, and I know that we've had some communication on that. Is council going to get a chance to talk about that at some point?
I think we can discuss that now if you wish. I mean, in a general sense, but I think we would need to have bring it in the form of a motion to do that, because there's going to be, I mean, that's another financial commitment, and I mean, I think that's the way to do it, Doug. We need direction from council and bring it in the form of a motion. And you want to speak to it, Larry? Go ahead.
And frankly, I have communicated some confidential information to you. It would be my advice that there be a closed to public session convened if it's the will of council to further discuss that matter.
I'm okay with that.
Okay, and I guess there'll be a time frame that we need to meet, which will be fairly quick, right?
30 days.
So could we do that at the next meeting and still meet the time frame? Which will be the 8th of September?
Decisions made at the 11th.
So that would be time. Yes. Okay, so if you wish, we can have a close to public session, or a session on discussing, there'll be some legal advice involved in that, right? Will be, yeah, it'll be subject to legal advice.
I'm okay with that.
Okay, fine, we can have that discussion. Thank you very much. That's the end of our agenda. We'll start going to council with Councillor Frost.
Hi, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just two things. As council is aware and press is aware that the newly reinstated chapter of the kin men and kins women, because there's about equal number of them, seems to be mostly made up of couples. There's 12 in total there so far. They had their touch-a-truck on Saturday, and the town was well represented there. That the town's work guys were down there with garbage trucks, and had trackless down there, and Bruce Power sent in a unit when everybody'd seen it basically in the press. I went in with a combine, which they were short on farm equipment this time around, and they have plans for expanding it for next year, but it was really well received. The kids were they were good. I had my mistake. The second kid into the combine grabbed a tube of silicone I had there and used it like hand cream. So there's a little bit of cleanup after that one, but it was my own fault. But the kids had a lot of fun, and the parents did as well. So I ended up with a lot of happy faces and nothing really of concern. It was well done. Second thing was on the following day, Sunday, I went to the airport for the 50th anniversary, and it was really well attended, more than I thought were ever going to be there. It was just people along from the park there. There was residents and people that were visiting that knew about it, as well as a lot of airplanes in and out of the place. It was good, and they brought over Owen Sound to do some sightseeing flights, and they'd booked a couple that I knew of. But other than that, that's all I got, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Huber.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't know how to follow the silicone thing, but anyway, for the last week and a half, I've actually been up at Cabot Head as the lighthouse keeper. It's a volunteer program there, and I just wanted to highlight a couple of visitor comments. And just yesterday, these two women and a guy showed up at Cabot Head about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They had been on the Chantry Island tour in the morning, and so they were doing the Bruce County lighthouses. There's a lot of that, and certainly there's some wonderful opportunities for a little bit of partnership with the Dyers Bay community, because there's a lot of movement back and forth. The other thing that I just wanted to comment, and this is no disrespect to Port Elgin, but whenever people are kind of intrigued at what we're doing there, because we're all volunteers and we're staying at the lighthouse, and do you live here? Well, yeah, I'm here right now, but where do you live otherwise? I say Southampton. It's incredible to me the number of people who say, I love Southampton. And you get these unbelievable comments about lots of different aspects of the community. And I think sometimes that, it would just be great if we could all be out there somewhere a little bit further away, but still close, because you really do pick up on what's kind of cool about your place. And it happened this afternoon, actually, before I left, people from Ottawa. And the woman said if only we were closer to Ottawa, they'd be retiring to Southampton. But it's just really interesting when you do something tourism that's close, but not right here. You hear these incredible things. So I'll just leave that. I still have another week to go. And it's an amazing little lighthouse. I hope they get divested this year, just like we got the range lights. But it's that lighthouse thing in Bruce County is pretty cool. Thank you.
Councilor Shildroth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I only have one thing this evening, and it's going to fall under for the good of council. So promise not to laugh or whatever. But after much consideration, I have decided, effective today, that my name will no longer be in the municipal election. I was in to see Linda at 4 o'clock. I've been here quite a long time, and I was looking for signs that it might be time. For those that don't know, if you've never sat in this chair, every so often it lets out a little bit of air and I keep sinking down. So I've decided that's my sign. I've certainly enjoyed quite a few terms on council. I've worked with a lot of great people, made a lot of good friends. Hope I haven't lost too many. And I really am glad that there are a bunch of candidates that have come forward. And by me withdrawing at this time, I suspect there could be some more. So I do wish them the best. And one final thing, Mr. Mayor, while I'm not sitting on this side of the table, I can guarantee you that I will be back from time to time on that side. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Just keep an eye on whoever's here, Fred.
I will, thank you.
Thanks very much. And on behalf of thanks for everything you've done for the community over the years, Fred, and we'll get probably a better opportunity. Raised up here with Gallup.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Certainly the 50th anniversary of the Port Elgin Flying Club, Port Elgin Airport, was interesting. There was probably 150 people there. They had a cake that looked like a runway, all sorts of interest. I believe they had 4 former airport managers and manageresses on hand. There may have been more, I may be wrong on that, but there was a bunch of them. I know we asked them to come up for the cake cutting, and all of a sudden we had a whole bunch, and I wasn't even sure some of them were there. So it was kind of interesting. The second thing, the AMO conference, Sunday night, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday morning, well attended. Had a chance to speak to representatives of councils right across Ontario. And it's pretty interesting. We all have the same problems. We all have the same concerns about provincial cutbacks and proper sharing of resources at the provincial level, as well as a continuing, it seems, misunderstanding of rural Ontario by the cities. And the Ministers' Forum was pretty indicative of that. I always call it the duck and dodge forum, because they throw a question out there, and it's amazing the answers they can come up with that have nothing to do with the question. You just have to hear it. It's actually fun, but that I find a little frustrating, because certainly things like the green energy program, some of those things, no real answers on any of that stuff, but great opportunity to understand what's going on in Ontario from a councillor's point of view. And I would certainly encourage anyone who's new or considering running to take the opportunity to attend those conferences that are available to you, because they give you a much better handle on where we can actually go. You get a chance to talk to people who have exactly the same problems we have, and it's well worth it. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Ted. Councilor Brown. I have nothing at this time. Is that why your mic's straight up and right? Councilor Gould. You don't have to answer that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to say thanks to Councillor Shildroth for all he's done for us since I've known him on council here, and he was one of the reasons that I decided to run 4 years ago, and I've always admired your calm demeanor and your logical approach, so you'll be missed at this table. Thanks.
Deputy Mayor Charbonneau.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'll congratulate Fred as well on his years on council and thank him. I want to just comment on a couple of things that are coming up over the next week, which everyone should attend. One is the second workshop on the Southampton Streetscape plan. That's this Wednesday at 7 o'clock at the Southampton Town Hall. And I think it's going to be a very important meeting if you're at all interested in Southampton's downtown, and certainly everyone should be. The consultant is going to come forward with some ideas and some images and things for us to look at and to talk about where we can go with Southampton's downtown over the coming years. And this is, I think, going to be the critical moment in that process. And so I'd certainly encourage everyone to be there. And the second meeting is on Thursday, the 28th, which is the waterfront meeting, the Port Elgin Main Beach design, which we approved moving forward with last week. And this will be the first kick at the can for members of the community to come out and have their opportunity to discuss their ideas about Port Elgin's Main Beach. And certainly this is I think the critical moment in terms of Port Elgin, in terms of beginning to really seriously implement the waterfront master plan, and hopefully we'll put together some capital projects for the next council to look at in 2015. So a very important project, and something I think which is going to bear fruit in the very near future. At least I hope it will. So I encourage everyone to be there as well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Luke. I just have a couple things. One, I had the opportunity to golf last on the 15th, but Bruce Power had sponsored a golf tournament for the Hospital Foundation. On that day, they raised $125,000 at that event for the Saugeen Memorial Hospital Foundation, well attended by a number of suppliers and people from around the area, and a number of doctors. So just a great event, and they just have the ability to support so many great things in our community, and we're very fortunate for that. The other thing I have here is, and I know, I think the Deputy Mayor has already participated in this Ice Bucket Challenge for ALS. There's a few of us may have been challenged and participated, but there is now a group that are going to have a community challenge, and so we're asking all of council and anybody that would like to participate and support and help get rid of this, but it will take place at Lakeshore Racket Club on Saturday, August the 30th at 11 a.m. So I've been challenged, and I suspect I'll get wet that day, and I hope I'm there to see a number of you people get wet also. So let's see. It starts at 11, and it's going to be a barbecue, and I think it's just going to be a fun day and fundraiser for ALS. So hope to see everybody there. And with that, I have a motion to adjourn. Tom and Luke, all in favor? Okay, we're going to take a 10-minute break.